It's that time of the week for another episode of Grappling Bulletin. Welcome back. Myself, Howell, with Chase, and in the back we got Corey Stockton, and once again here to break down the biggest news from the weekend. And it was a big weekend because there was the 8-man winner-takes-all $10,000 £160 black belt tournament. That is a mouthful right there, but I hit every single thing that makes that event special. That was cool. And then, of course, there was a big event in Abu Dhabi as well, the Grand Slam, that we want to take a look at as well. So lots to talk about, right, Chase?
A lot of gi jiu-jitsu going down this last weekend.
How nice is it to see you back in the gi?
Refreshing indeed. It's definitely where my heart lies, and a lot of fun matches. You know, I was not in Vegas. You were out there for
Yes, I was.
Evolve Your Game, EUG, and man, for a first-time show, those guys really delivered a tight product. I feel like. I mean, I love a smaller card, right? A pro show that's 3 to 4 hours, just only high level matches. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And of course, the biggest story out of EUG, Evolve Your Game, was Andy Murasaki's pretty much picture perfect black belt debut. This was, well, I mean, it was just phenomenal, right? I mean, the tournament was loaded with talent. It was absolutely loaded with talent. You had 8 competitors. You had world champion Matheus Gabriel. You had multiple-time Pan champion Gianni Grippo. You had some real standouts like Jonathan Alves and Isaac Duerdlein. You had 2-time world championship silver medalist, world pro champion Marcio Andre, and no-gi world champion Johnny Tama. That's a stacked division right there. And it was kind of like a combined lightweight featherweight division, right?
Right, it was 160 pounds, and yeah, it was tough to really pick a favorite, especially considering that they didn't have a bracket until Friday night before.
That was fun.
I liked the idea of a blind draw. You know, they just went in there and picked a name out of the hat or whatever, and that's who they got. Because you would have some battles, I think, with coaches if you were trying to set up those matches earlier.
Yeah, imagine trying to do seeds.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Yeah.
Corey, what were your thoughts on EUG? What were you thinking going into this weekend?
You know, I really like the way that the bracket was set up, specifically because it was a 160-pound tournament. So there were so many potential matches going into this that we might never see. You know, I'm thinking of Matheus Gabriel versus Jonathan Alves. Like, whenever would we get a chance to see that on like a major IBJJF stage? So the fact that we got that very first round and you know, we had a major upset, and then Andy Murasaki obviously carrying into the rest of the event and just, you know, defeating a no-gi world champion, then a perennial champion pan contender, and defeating a world champion in the final was a great way to burst onto the black belt scene.
What did you guys think of the rules? They're a little bit different, right? There was no advantages, and then no score would be made for any sweeps from inside 50-50. And that was kind
while
of unique.
the legs were still crossed. You had to uncross your legs and remove yourself from the 50-50 for those points to count. So
before you swept, I assume.
No. You could sweep with the 50-50.
You could tilt.
You could tilt. You could knock them down with the 50-50. But even if you came up, you wouldn't score points unless you unlocked and detached yourself from the 50-50.
Okay.
So it was kind of cool, and the lack of advantages I feel was interesting. In the event of a 0-0 tie, it was only a 7-minute match as well. So in the event of 0-0 tie, it would go through to a referee's decision. But if it was tied on points, let's say 4-4, whoever scored last would win. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because I feel that there was potential to possibly game the system. I feel like there's the first one, guys just went out there and they went for it, but I could potentially see that as a problem in the future. As there is with any rule set, people will find a way to exploit it.
That's how competitors are.
They are.
Sometimes you have to fight to win, as they say.
But just going back to what you said quickly about the bracket as well, I think that we could not have asked for a better bracket, because the way that the first round matches fell, we got to see everything that we wanted, right? We got to see the prospect up against one of the favorites. We got to see some rematches. We got to see some old scores get settled, right, Corey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking specifically of the Marcio Andre Isaac Duerdlein match. Marcio has kind of had Isaac's number the last couple of times they've run into each other. Marcio is at a heavier weight class now, and I don't know if that necessarily manifested itself into the match. But it was a great match, and it's kind of what we expect out of those two. Marcio later got beat by Matheus Gabriel, but another great exciting match. And speaking of the 50-50, I think it's something that we're seeing more and more of, that at the end of the match there was a kind of standing 50-50 battle where they were like their legs were tangled, but they were kind of fighting for a takedown from 50-50.
Man, I remember there was a period in 2018 where I think I saw that happen in like the last 20, 30 seconds of the finals in about 4 or 5 different tournaments.
Yeah,
it was
a featherweight.
So weird.
Yeah, it was Johnny Grippo and Paulo Miyao did that like 10 different times, I feel like.
Isaac did it in Brasileiros. Johnny Gripping did it in Gian Nogi and Kasai. It's incredible. Yeah, you're right. But hey, let's talk about Andy Murasaki, man, because this is one of the things that we wanted to highlight. The fact that Andy Murasaki, first ever black belt tournament, comes in and he beats Kennedy Maciel in the first round, beats Gianni Grippo by submission in the second round, and then beats Mateus Gabriel in the final. Let's play a clip because we actually have a short highlight of the best moments of Andy Murasaki. Nope, wrong clip. That's Abu Dhabi Grand Slam. No, we don't want that one. We want Andy Murasaki's
We will get
action.
to that, though, yes.
That's coming up because there's some shockers in that one.
Yeah. As far as Murasaki goes, though, we all knew he would have a massive impact. That's why we made him Prospect of the Week just a few weeks ago, knowing that his debut was imminent and that he was ready to burst out. But yeah, defeating that level of talent and doing so decisively for the most part was pretty impressive. His passing was just on point, Hal.
It really was. I mean, it was dynamic. It was extremely precise. His pressure was unreal, and we talked about the weight there a second ago as well. Now, Andy cut from 182 down to 161 for
That's
this
a big
tournament.
cut, even for a day before weigh-in.
And you could see that it made a difference. I mean, Gianni, Kennedy, these guys, they came in on the scale at like 155. And look at the difference. When Andy got top position here against Gianni, there was no way he was going to lose in it. It was like a tank. And you get that step over triangle to become the first person in the weight class to submit Gianni Grippo since 2014.
Wow.
Incredible.
I didn't know that stat. That's wild.
Only Keenan and Muhammad Ali and like heavyweight guys like that have tapped Gianni since. So, Rafa Mendes was the last guy to do it like 7 years ago.
Jeez.
But yeah, Andy Murasaki, you can see his grips, his footwork, the way that he can just drive through, drive around, drive over. And this was the only moment that he was really in danger. Mateus Gabriel, right at the end of their match, almost got the back. Came up and they scrambled off the mat. No points scored, no advantage, of course. And he got the decision. A few people were upset about that because they felt that Mateus, his last-ditch effort was worth it. But, they went out of bounds midway through the back take sequence, whereas Andy had been in control on top, pressuring with the pass and scored a number of near passes throughout the majority of that match.
Yeah, a really impressive performance. And I will say if there's only any downside to EUG was that the mat was a little small.
Could be bigger.
And I think with no advantages, that sort of affects the outcome, right? Because there would have probably been at least an advantage awarded for that last sequence, and you never really know. So
yeah,
I won't call it a small thing. It's just I don't know. It was a factor maybe in this.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that small mats force the action because there's less room to run around.
True.
But at the same time, sometimes you need a little bit of space because that happens.
But man, I mean, for like I said, for a first time show, and they really just delivered an amazing bracket. I can't think of one match I really didn't enjoy at all. It was really great. And also, we should highlight a little bit. Is it Jennifer Aquino?
Yeah, we will. We'll come on to that in a second. But what I was going to say is Andy Murasaki, that was his first black belt tournament. He got promoted right at the end of 2020. So he'd obviously been, waiting and stuff and came through to make his debut here. And that is the best possible way, because to beat 3 highly ranked guys, to win $10,000 at 21 years of age, that's a way to make your statement in the black belt ranks. But he's going to go to World Pro this week. He's going to go to Abu Dhabi to compete. But the big question is, like, where does Andy go from here? Like, he's put his name in the mix immediately, right?
I mean, yeah. And he can go any way he wants, it seems. I mean, he's really quite capable of beating the best in the world. And he may have had a slight advantage coming into this, being one of the heavier weighted competitors and one of the stronger in this bracket. But I think he'll have a little bit tougher time against someone his own size, because clearly
against other
he was able to steamroll some guys, right? Just a lot of power that matters.
15, 20 pounds makes a big difference.
So
for sure.
a World Pro will be an interesting test for him, I think. Corey, what do you think about Murasaki and the rest of the black belt divisions here?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps out to me is we released the new black belt rankings on April 1st. Andy wasn't in the mix, right, because he hadn't had a black belt match then. I'm really just curious what he's going to do at World Pro specifically, because I'd like to see where he ends up. After a showing like that, you have to expect he's pretty high up there. But there are some big names that he's looking at that could really kind of bring him back to earth. I don't know if that'll happen. I mean, Andy clearly has shown that he's a force to be reckoned with in the lightweight division. But I'm excited to see what he brings to us.
It's kind of funny, actually, if you think about it. His performance may not exactly affect the rankings in some ways, because I mean, we're going to rank him at featherweight. It's not where he's really going to compete. So, but it does show, of course, that the talent's there and that he's very much at the top.
Yeah, because when we see him compete, it'll be at middle. It won't be at light or feather, and he did beat light and featherweight guys. But still, an amazing performance, and it's not yet confirmed, but he's probably going to get invited back, because they've already announced that they're going to have a 170-pound tournament. Same deal, 8 men, winner takes all black belt tournament, and that'll be on June 12th. Great. And I would like to see Andy in that, because if he's done it at 160, I'd like to see him do it again at 170 and test himself against a whole bunch of different competitors.
They did announce Tynan Dalpro was going to be in that, correct? Yeah,
he's the first confirmed competitor. Tynan Dalpro from AOJ is in there, so that's a match.
I mean, I say Andy Tynan's pretty sick, so hopefully we get to see that at some point. That'd be great.
100%. And there was another really big standout performance from EUG, which was Mayssa Bastos, which is our next big talking point of this one. Mayssa Bastos scoring 21 points against Jessica Khan. We got a highlight of this. Let's play the highlight and we can talk at the same time, because Mayssa Bastos, man, this young lady, I think, Corey, you mentioned it about how for the first half of the match or so, it was kind of pretty even, and then she picked up the pace, and when she poured it on, I mean, Jessa kind of just drowned under the pressure, right?
Right. I think the score was 2-2 5 minutes in or something like that. And then when Mayssa picked it up, man, did she pick it up. She scored 19 points in the last half of the match. And it seemed like once she got a feel for where she was and how to crack the code, she just unleashed everything. And that's kind of what Mayssa is known for. She feels it out, she plays a little bit safe, and then when she smells blood, she bites.
That's a great way of putting it, smelling blood, because up until that point, I mean, you watched the match as well, it was pretty even. Like, Jessa did not look out of her depth, and to be fair, Mayssa is an established world champion. Jessa is a rookie black belt. She got her black belt right there at the end of 2020. So there's no shame in losing to somebody like Mayssa, but she looked fine up to a certain point, and then Mayssa just, man, she flicks that switch.
I mean, yeah, Mayssa is absolutely incredible. And this was a very different story than the first time they met when Jessa was still a brown belt, right? They fought, I think, September at an AJP Grand Slam in Miami, and it was very, very close. Mayssa ended up winning by submission eventually, but in the beginning, it was actually Jessa with a really tight triangle, and then it was back and forth for a while, and again, at the end of the match, Mayssa kind of was able to turn the corner and get the win by sub. This match was even and then very one-sided. So, Mayssa, I feel like, doesn't take many steps backwards. Once she gets to know a competitor, she sort of has a blueprint, right? And she knows how to stay very safe and find her entry points and then just work, and like I said, never move backwards. And the scoreboard reflects that. 2-21 is an insane score, especially, as Corey pointed out, that for the first 5 minutes or so of regulation, it was tied. And then she just said, okay, I'm going to finish this now. So really, really impressive, I thought.
Very much so. And the issue, I feel, though, is that Mayssa is maybe a victim of her own success, because she's basically cleared out the division. She beats anybody who's put in front of her. She has one notable loss, which I feel that is a match that we may see next week, actually, in Abu Dhabi at the World Pro, and is it against Brenda Larissa of Alliance Dreamheart. I think that she's the only one to actually hold a win over Mayssa in maybe the last 12 months or something like that. So there's a chance for Mayssa, because she's on the plane right now, I believe, that she actually left, or may have landed by now, but she was straight from her and Andy. They both left the show on Saturday night in Las Vegas, drove home, Mayssa back to Arizona and Andy back to San Diego, for them both to fly to Abu Dhabi on Sunday evening. Where they're going to do their 2-day quarantine and then compete in a couple of days and part of the World Pro.
Hey, so that could be a great month. That's a lot of cash if they take gold at UG and then go straight to Abu Dhabi, win again.
Right? Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
But I mean, this is going to be good for Mayssa, because she'll actually have some sort of a number of challenges there waiting for her as well. And of course, the travel restrictions means that, you know, there are only a limited number of matches that she can do here in the States. So I think for a division like that, you need to look far and wide for challenges, right? But,
Yes.
But that is that for EUG. Fun tournament, definitely a lot of fun. Enjoyed watching Andy the black belt ranks. I'm going to go back and study that guard passing because there was some nifty footwork, some really nice grips, and we were talking about it earlier as well. The way that he kind of combines like the forward pressure and then mixing up with like the lateral footwork and stuff, and the windshield wiper motions of his feet and stuff. Really interesting stuff.
It's like a slightly more explosive Gustavo Batista or something like that.
You can see the influence.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he mixes in a lot of the great passing elements from all the guys from Atos, but I feel like you see Gustavo's influence quite.
And Gustavo was there coaching because, like, you know, obviously Andre was the coach in the coach's corner, but it's a super small venue. You know, there were only like 2 rows of seats all around the actual the mat, and Gustavo was on the other side of the mat, like literally could touch the mat, and he was coaching as well. So. 2 really, really good influences for you right there.
Not bad.
And you can see it in the jiu-jitsu, right?
It shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, let's move on because that wasn't the only big tournament from the weekend, the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam. So let's explain.
Yeah, what's happening over there, Hal?
Yeah.
Why is this going on?
Corey, actually, you take it through. What is the difference between the World Pro coming up next week and what happened this weekend? What were the matches from last weekend?
So this last weekend was essentially the season finale of all of the Grand Slam events throughout the 2021 season. Next weekend is this upcoming weekend is the World Pro. So 2 different events entirely. This past weekend, though, we had a lot of the competitors that will be competing again this week. Some notable notable victories. Thiago Jorge and Jonas Andrade, who always do really well in Abu Dhabi and in the Grand Slam, but also some major upsets.
Come on, no, let's talk about the biggest results.
Yeah.
Because, all right, you start off, you go in the lightest weight classes and you work your way up. But come on, man, let's dial in on the biggest news from the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam. Because for me, it was the shock. Like, you don't see this happen very often, but there was some big submissions from some big names. Let's play this clip because you can see it straight away at the beginning of this video. Espen Mathisen getting his back taken and choked by Luis Paulo. For me, I did not expect this because Espen's a bolo master.
Not off the bolo, right?
No, right? Espen is the bolo king, bolo master, the Viking jiu-jitsu specialist.
Look at that flexibility knee, though. We got to highlight that. Oh, my God. When I saw this clip, I was thinking that looks...
foot.
And he was straight on the short choke. It was like right underneath the chin. There was very little defending it. And man, like Luis Paulo, when he got it, he smashed it on. If you've not heard of him, don't worry. He's pretty low key, but you'll know his name soon. He's an Alliance Dreamark competitor from Manaus and poised for big things if this is any indication. Took gold in his division as well in 77.
Look at the angle of that leg. His foot is facing his chin on that choke.
So this is another notable moment because Gutenberg Pereira put Renato Cardozo to sleep, as you can see right here, with shoulder pressure.
Oh my God.
Not even from side control. Wasn't even a Von Flue. It was during the knee cut choke. You can see it right here. And by the time he actually gets out and settles into the side control, Renato's already out. That was mind-blowing.
That is amazing pressure.
Huge pressure. And then Beatriz Mesquita, Queen Bia,
Doing what she does.
Doing what she did. Classical jiu-jitsu. Look at that.
Did she have 3 matches and 3 subs?
That's right. 3 matches, 3 subs for Bia.
Not shocking.
Not shocking. A heavy favorite to take gold in the World Pro next year as well. But Beatriz Mesquita, just beautiful close guard, sweep, back take, choke, amazing. And man, there was submissions were firing in this event actually, because then I think this is also big news that Patrick Gaudio took gold in the 94 kilogram division with this, as you'll see now, lovely straight footlock. But look at this defense to the Della X. He gets swept off the Della X and he goes straight into the saddle.
Nice.
Straight into the saddle, picks up the free leg, and then comes out of the saddle into single leg X. And there he goes into the toe hold, which is actually a speciality of his. He's hit this in the past before. We've seen him tap out his opponents.
I mean, that famous Pomelo submission, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, when he literally detached Homelo's foot. But you can see the replay of that because it went on fast. I was a little bit doubtful of the submission, but then you see this. Look, he has huge stretch from the single leg X, and then you can actually see the torque on the ankle. There was no getting out of it. I mean, like Gutenberg rolled, but it was done. And then the final one was the final of the 120 kilogram division, the super heavyweight or ultra heavyweight. They have like a combined division. Roosevelt Souza, he tapped out Anderson Muniz, the very highly rated Anderson Muniz of Alliance Dream Art, 31 seconds.
Yeah, that was probably the most shocking result to me, just because Anderson and his brothers have just been basically untouchable, or at least, in the color ranks, and then they've already made a strong impression so far at black belt. But Roosevelt just came out here and said, no, today is my day, and smashed this ankle lock on.
Smashed is the best description. Watch the replay of this, because when Roosevelt, he gets the grip right here, watch the way that he smashes his hips down, and he like sprawls hard. He comes up, and you can see that there is no getting out of that. Like, man, he got a huge arch. And then you've seen Roosevelt; he's a big dude, man. Yeah. So putting all that pressure through the ankle, yikes. So some huge, notable results. But I feel like the one that kind of really got my attention was definitely Luis Paulo versus Espen. I kind of consider that a bit of an upset.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Just because I think it's the nature as well. Like we said, Espen is a Berimbolo guy. He's super well known for it. He was going for his trademark technique, and to be countered with the rebolo, well, I mean, that is just unexpected, let's say.
And Espen is a World Pro champion. 2018, he took gold in that very division. So to come back, 2.5 years later, and or 3 years later almost, and to go for gold in because the Grand Slam is in effect, it is a precursor to the World Pro, right? Like it's about a week before, and as Corey explained, they end in the season with the Grand Slam, but then a week later they're going to have the World Pro, the rescheduled 2020 World Pro, and just that rule format and the circumstances in which it happens, just very shocking.
Well, this is kind of a really interesting and unique scenario, right? Because it's not typically done this way, where the Grand Slam is a week before.
No.
But now you essentially have this professional mini circuit where compete one weekend, you get a couple days off to rest, and you compete again. It's pretty cool. They're all in this like self-contained bubble of Abu Dhabi, getting tested all the time for COVID and all that stuff. But I mean, it must be a great experience for these competitors, because they get to go right back out and try and make some adjustments against the very same people sometimes, right? I mean, it's basically the same roster. Maybe the brackets won't look exactly the same.
I think there'll be more people around for the World Pro. We're gonna dive into the brackets, or not the brackets, sorry. We'll dive into the divisions shortly and discuss a little bit more about who's going to be there for World Pro, because there are a few extra names,
right?
But still,
but I think it's a great way to make the best of a very unique situation of the world, and traveling being so difficult. Why not have two?
Yeah. And Espen, like you say, he's basically got 5 days to make necessary adjustments and get back out there. But there is one other match. We don't have a video of this one, but I just wanted to bring it up because for me, it was one of the funnest matches of the entire tournament, was watching Isaac Bayens and Tommy Langacker. It was in the semi-final in the 85 kilogram division, and these two, not the first time they faced off, right? They've met a bunch of times, and certainly won't be the last time as well. But it was 2-2. And it went to a decision with Bayens winning decision. But I mean, if you watch it, man, that match was back and forth.
I haven't got a chance to watch that one yet.
There was a crazy scramble where Isaac actually kind of got onto the back and almost had a choke. But Isaac is just so tough, man. You have to kill him to beat him, So he got out, and then he put the pressure on and got Tommy's back, and it was one of those great fun matches. So
every single time those two square off, it's just an absolute scrap. They will just go after each other. There's no holding back. I'm thinking of, either there's a Euros final, there's a World semifinal in there. Every time I've seen them go against each other, it's no holds barred, let everything loose and see what happens, and that makes for some fun.
That's
fun
their style.
Watching.
That's their style, though, right? Because Tommy is kill or be killed, and Isaac's kind of the little bit of the same kind of mentalities. They're both cut from very similar cloths, right?
Yeah, that reminds me too that Zaki's teammate Ana Rodriguez submitted her opponent Amanda Montero in the final pretty spectacularly as a quick finish, quick armbar.
Close guard armbar,
yeah,
right?
It's really
You don't
nice.
see too many of those nowadays.
No, so that's great momentum going into World Pro for her as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, speaking of World Pro, Do you want to dive into these divisions?
We've been teasing it. Let's just go. Let's jump in.
All right, cool. Because these the country qualifiers are stacked. Right?
What are the country qualifiers? How? What are we talking about?
I'm glad you asked, Chase. So, what happens is at the World Pro, there is a maximum number of competitors per country allowed into the main division. So let's just say 77 kilogram division. Okay, you're only allowed maximum two Brazilians, 2 Americans, 2 Japanese, 2 Frenchmen. Right? That's it. You can't have a division with 8 Brazilians, 2 Americans, 1 Norwegian, and so on. No, it's a world championship, so they have this very well-defined selection process. So in effect, the opening day of the World Pro, they run a little mini bracket for the competitors of that country, because there are 2 slots, and the first slot automatically goes to the representative or the athlete, the entrant with the highest number of ranking points. So let's say you and I, we're both representing, let's say, Floistan, okay? FloGrappling Stan.
Okay.
And you and I are both in the same division, and we sign up. You've got 1,000 points. I've only got 800 ranking points.
Sounds about right.
You automatically go into that division. I have to fight all the other guys from my country, Corey, Reed, Michael, everybody else, for the right to represent our country in the same division as you. But that takes place on the first day of the tournament, and then the bracket that you would be in would take place on the second day. So it's kind of cool because, all of us will fight for the right. Sometimes those country qualifiers are tougher than the main bracket.
I mean, let's not beat around the bush. We're talking about the Brazilian qualifiers because
specifically, yeah.
Generally, they have the most high-level talent, and only one gets the pass into the main bracket. And you'll have qualifiers with 8, 12, 16 guys that are super elite, and they all have to fight each other.
Right.
It's a pretty difficult road just to even get into the bracket. And so while this has been somewhat debated by mostly the Brazilian community,
sure, yeah.
as it's a little tougher for them and a bit of a benefit to everybody else, right? I mean,
yeah.
You don't have to fight that first day if you're in the main bracket. So
yeah, and also, if you're from another country, let's say you're representing the UK or you're representing Norway or something, you've got the knowledge that, man, I'm only going to face like maybe 1 Brazilian in a semi or a final rather than fight 5 in matches back to back to try and get through to the gold medal. So let's jump in because we've highlighted some of the country qualifiers, the most difficult ones, and we want to start off with the heavyweights, the 120 kilogram division, because this one is loaded.
Let's jump in. So we have Gutenberg is back in action. That's the name that jumps out to me right away.
Moving up because he did 94 at the in the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam last week.
Yeah, good point. I wonder why. Usually it would be the opposite direction too, but maybe he feels he's got a better shot there, or just maybe his way of registration worked where he just did that at a different time. Who knows? Joel Gabriel is heading over there.
Returning champion.
Roosevelt, the man of the hour, right, with a big submission win over Anderson Muniz.
And I don't think that Roosevelt has had, apart from this last week, he hasn't had that many opportunities to compete at black belt yet.
No, he's been over there. He's been over in UAE for a little while.
Yeah, he's been teaching at Team Nogueira in Dubai, I believe. But he got his black belt in 2020. And of course, being in Abu Dhabi, he didn't really compete that much, right?
Exactly. Well, he's got already making a strong impression and a chance to kind of follow it up. We have both Muniz brothers in there, Eric and Anderson. And Paulo Pinto is always fun to watch. He's based over there in UAE, super aggressive.
Yeah. So about the Muniz brothers, Anderson and Eric, they met in the semifinals at the Grand Slam, and of course, you're not going to get brothers to fight in a tournament. So Eric basically allowed Anderson to win by walkover, and Anderson went into the final against Roosevelt and lost by submission. I have a feeling that if the bracket is set up in a way that they meet again, I think Anderson's going to let Eric go through this time, and this will be Eric's chance to try and get that one back. And whether he faces Roosevelt or not, he still has many others. He's got his hands full with those guys.
And what's crazy is they both can't make it. No matter what happens, no matter what this bracket looks like, one of them will have to give way.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on, shall we? Let's move on to the next division, which is the 85 kilogram division. This one, again, the Brazilian qualifier for the 85 kilos. There are a couple of names that jump out for me. You've got Claudio Calasanz, who is an Abu Dhabi World Pro champion, making his return. And then you've got Jaime Canudo, super dangerous arm hunter. You got Isaac Bayens is back in there as well after just taking gold last week at the Grand Slam. Hibamar is in the mix. Guccieri Barboza, a very well respected, a little bit of a dark horse, we would say, right? He's a very quiet kind of guy who lets the jiu-jitsu do the talking, but a very dangerous competitor. Wellington Sebastião, aka Alemão, who is a very good friend and close training partner of Leandro Lowe, and one of the kind of best kept secrets of the Sao Paulo scene, actually.
Yeah, he hasn't made it to the US to compete before, right?
That's one of the things. Has, I've not really seen too much of him. No,
I think he has now.
And then Mauricio Oliveira, who at the bottom right there, aka Mauricio Neto, but Mauricio Oliveira, formerly of GF Team, now part of Alliance Dream Art, and also another one of those sort of like promising young black belts. I think he got promoted last year or a year before, and is definitely poised for big things as well. So
did you point out Hibamar? Hibamar's in there as well.
Did right in the middle.
Okay, yeah.
There he is. So obviously Isaac Bayens is champion last week. He doesn't get the automatic in because it's based on the season's ranking points rather than just the most recent results. But again, that's a tough one to call. I mean, you put those guys even if you were just to pull those top 5 guys and put them in a bracket, you can't automatically say who's going to come out on top.
No, that's why it's fun for us and probably not so fun for them. That's a stressful group of guys to know you had to fight against.
All right. 77 kilos. Corey, you mentioned that 77 for you is one of your favorite ones, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just spoke at length about him, but Andy Murasaki, I'm really liking Renato Canuto in this, and Adriano Araujo, who took second in the 77 this past weekend.
And if you look at it, Luis Paulo, who just took gold and beat the Espen, is going to have to fight in that qualifier to go into the World Pro as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Renato Canuto is back in the gi for the first time in what feels like forever. But he did compete very recently at the Orlando Open, and he took gold in the absolute division there, right?
He did take gold in the absolute. That's right.
Right, yeah, beating Lira Jr., if I remember correctly, in the finals. So, Renato Canuto, good to see him back in the gi, because it definitely was, it felt like it was a while, right?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And the idea of Andy versus Renato is an absolutely insane matchup. I really hope that one goes down. We also have one of the Luna Bros. I don't know if it's Matthias or Mateus, but they're in there from Checkmat.
Take your pick.
Yes. And also Thiago Bravo.
Thiago Bravo, man, up at 77. Like, I think we're more accustomed to seeing him compete in World Pro at 69.
Yeah,
right?
He's got a million matches with Paulo Miao. So he hasn't bulking up though. I'll follow him on IG and dude's jacked. So this might be the move.
He's a dark horse as well, man. Thiago is one of those guys. He's we saw him compete a lot in like King of Mats and tournaments like that. And he's super tough. So that is a murderer's row right there. Murasaki, Thiago Bravo, Luna, Canuto, Luis Paulo, Araujo. Tough. 77 stacked as always. And then let's move down to weight 62 kilograms. This Brazil qualifier, man, this is like the equivalent of light featherweight. And just look at some of the names. Lucas Pinheiro is in. Pablo Mantovani is in. Thiago Jorge is in. Paulo Miao is in. And then one of the most promising young black belts, I don't even think we've got a chance to watch him at black belt yet, Mayram Alves.
No, we haven't had him on the site as a black belt, but Mayram, you may remember the viral clip he posted from Worlds as a purple belt where he did the sick foot sweep into like a jumping armbar or whatever that was. He's just an absolute killer. I feel
he's a whirlwind, yeah.
He's got really strong finisher's instinct, which is sometimes difficult to pull off at the lighter ranks, but he just goes out to murder everybody. One of my favorite athletes to watch, and I think this is going to be a really exciting competition for him, but he's got his work cut out with him. I mean, people like Paulo Miao and Lucas Pinheiro, and then Thiago Jorge as well. It's a tough division.
So Thiago took gold last week at the Grand Slam, right, Corey? Beating Lucas Pinheiro in the semifinals?
He beat Lucas in the semifinals, and I can't recall offhand who beat the finals.
Yeah, he beat Diego Pato in the finals, actually. So I think Pato gets the in because he has the ranking points. I think he's straight into the division. But Thiago Jorge is one of those guys that is criminally underrated, right? Always overlooked. As one of the light featherweight Cicero Costa competitors, of course, the Miao brothers get the shine, and then you've got the young guns like Pato, and then you've got Jose Thiago Barros, one of the other sort of the tough veterans. So Thiago was always in the mix, and yet always kind of overlooked, and yet just as capable as any of them.
Oh yeah, the Cicero Light Feather Mafia. You know, there's so many of those guys that could win any tournament on their own, but the brackets are usually stacked with 2 or 3, and someone's got to give way. Oftentimes, you know, Iago has played second fiddle to the Meows, but he's captured quite a few titles in his own right as well. I feel like, especially actually on the AJP circuit, I feel like that's where he cleans up quite a bit. He's still based in Brazil and doing more of those events. But yeah, Iago could very well do quite a nice job this weekend here. But if he is forced to go up against Paulo Meow, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I think Paulo might make it through.
Haven't seen that much of Paulo in the gi. Actually, he hasn't really been competing that consistently. Whereas we saw Lucas Pinheiro a couple of weeks ago, and you got to train with Lucas, right?
Yes, right. He was here for Fight to Win, and he wanted a place to, you know, break a sweat in and get loose. And I was happy to volunteer my services as a ragdoll.
How do you feel?
So strong, man. Holy crap. He's really, really great pressure passing. Incredible top game. That's pretty unique to him, and showed me some really cool ways to deal with lasso guards and kind of pesky spider guard stuff, and how he pressures. And Corey also got a taste of that as well. What did you think of Lucas's passing style?
Can concur. I think probably some of the most pressure I've ever felt from anybody under 180 pounds.
Wow.
And he's nowhere near 180 pounds either. 135 pounds or something. So, yeah, he's a great competitor. But, again, this is a tough qualifier bracket, and I would not want to have to put money down on who gets through on this one, you know?
No, definitely not. Well, let's move on to the next division, which is the 94 kilogram division. We just got a couple more to get through. 94 kilos, man, I'm looking. There's only a handful of names in here, but dangerous, I think. Patrick Gaudio has got to go up against Renato Cardozo and Guillermo Augusto of Alliance to try and fight his way into that division. What do you think? Do you think Gaudio's a favorite in this one?
I mean, Gaudio is definitely a force, but don't sleep on guys like Guilherme Santos or Soares. He's a Brazilian national champion. We saw him at Third Coast a few times last year, and he really impressed me. That was mainly no gi, I want to say, and I think the gi is more of his wheelhouse. And Renato Cardoso is a veteran who's always game, but I do think Patrick Gaudio may be my favorite going in, but it's definitely no sure thing.
Man, I'm just looking at the comments quickly actually in here, and believe it or not, we have something of a famous name in the chat.
Who's over there?
Tommy Langaka.
What's up, Tommy?
What's up, Tommy, man?
What time is it in Abu Dhabi right now? It's got to be like super early in the morning, I think.
Or super late at night, one or the other. But, man, that's really cool that Tommy's keeping an eye on this, because we're super excited to see him back. Man, it's awesome watching those guys. But last division to cover would be the women's, the 95 kilogram main bracket. This is not a country qualifier because we wanted to highlight one of the main divisions for the women's. And I think this one's a pick'em because you've got Gabi Pisaya, who is undefeated as a black belt currently. Recently won double gold in the Rio Open and looked phenomenal. You got Kendall Rusing, of course, from the USA, one of the best-known heavyweight competitors, the female black belts currently repping the USA. And then you've got two relatively new names, and this is a combined brown and black belt division, so I'm not even sure if they were promoted to black belt yet. But you've got Eleftheria Christodoulou of Cyprus from ZR team.
You get 5 stars for pronunciation there.
Thank you. And then you've got, I'm not sure I forget this one, but Katiuska Yasmira Diaz. Yasmira Diaz from Portugal. And man, I remember Katiuska well from Portugal because she took double gold at brown belt and she really stood out. Very physical, very dynamic, very aggressive jiu-jitsu. She really had the whole crowd going there in Lisbon as well. I think she's a local, right? Yeah. She had a lot of support. And then you noticed Eleftheria because you remember, I think she competed in purple belt. Is that right?
Purple belt that year, and just kind of the same sort of style you were talking about of Katiuska, where just really physical. She was dominating girls, quite good wrestling if I remember correctly, heavy top game. And she's from Cyprus, which is not exactly a jiu-jitsu powerhouse. So it's always cool to see people come from regions that are not necessarily dominant grappling zones and go out there and crush the competition like she did. So I don't know how long, I haven't been following her too closely, how long she's been at Brown. I don't think she's gotten her black belt, but these are, of course, combined divisions, brown and black.
Yeah.
So this is a great way for her to burst out in the scene and, maybe beat some of the best ranked black belts in the world.
And then there is a spot remaining for the Brazilian qualifier winner as well. And it's unclear who that will be, but we're expecting Yara Suarez, who is a huge talent from Sao Paulo as well, who actually has a win over Gabi Pisania at brown belt, I remember, at the World Championships a couple of years ago. So expect those guys to go head to head. But probably Gabi is the favorite in that one. Like we said, she's
Corey,
undefeated.
confirm if I'm correct, but Gabi is undefeated as a black belt. Is that
That's
true?
Right. Yeah, she's undefeated since she hasn't been a black belt for very long, but I think she's 26-0 or something.
Wow.
Something along those lines.
Phenomenal.
Gordon Ryan numbers up there.
Yeah, it won't be long. Won't be long for sure. So that kind of concludes our little breakdown of the World Pro country qualifiers. Very excited actually.
Actually, we should mention real quickly the 62 kilogram country qualifier. Bia Mesquita and Luisa Montero are in that one. And there are a few other names as well, but those two, of course, would be vying for the final, or if they meet earlier, then that's pretty unlucky for one of them. But they'll join some interesting names like Margot. She just actually corrected people on her name, but I think it's Ciccarelli. Oh, she's getting mad at me, but it's not Cicerelli. It's not a soft C. Ciccarelli. Sorry, Margot. Sorry, Margot. I tried. Also, Larissa Pais is in that division, and a few other names plus the country qualifier. But that's a really great division at 62 kilograms as well.
Yeah, so I believe that the country qualifiers begin on April 7th, and then the main brackets will be on the 8th, and then I believe that the finals are on the 9th. But we can double check on the schedule and that and post it up later. But of course, you can watch it live on FloGrappling if you are awake in the middle of the night. Of course, it's very, very late there, depending on where you are in the world. But we will have the full replays, recaps, results, etc. on FloGrappling pretty much all the way through the tournament.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I can't wait to wake up in the morning and find out what happened and jump into some great matches.
Yeah, it's awesome to watch high-level gi tournaments back. So let's talk about upcoming tournaments, shall we? What we got coming up? What's on the horizon, Chase?
Well, we have Fight to Win back in action. They had their week off, and they're back on the road again, going to Dallas. And it's Fight to Win 169 this Saturday. We have Kennedy Maciel taking on Joshua Cisneros for the 155 title. That is a no-gi match, correct, Hal?
It is, yeah, 155 no-gi title match. I like this match. I like this match a lot, man. I mean, we saw Joshua Cisneros. He had his first no-gi match in a long time, not too long ago, on Fight to Win, and looked great. Man, he's a firebrand, right? Like, Josh has just got a great style, and it's kind of interesting, right? Because he's known more as a gi competitor, right? Mm-hmm. And yet, when you watch him, he even said to us that he feels that his no-gi game is better than his gi game.
Yeah, and like you said, when I think of him, I do think of gi results and gi competition, but I think it's no accident that he highlights his no-gi skills and experience from the fact that he comes from a wrestling family, right? He's got like 5 brothers, and they're all super high level. I think a couple,
California
more than
state
one
champs,
are California state champs, and so I mean, those beatings transfer over. I mean, if he's a middle child, his older brother's wrestling probably showed him some technique as he grew up, and I could see why that would transfer over. But of course, Kennedy, no-gi world champion as a black belt, and
ADCC silver medalist.
Yeah, he's done a few things already in his very early on in his black belt career.
That's a fun
match.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
And they both really understand the Fight to Win format, right?
Good point.
You have to change your game. You are not playing for positional advantage. You have to kind of let it all hang out and be a little more open. I like that they both know that, and we should expect a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. You can expect these guys to get after it for sure. There's another really high-profile no-gi match on this card as well. Oliver Taza of the Danaher Death Squad is going up against Checkmat's Gabriel Almeida. I like that match a lot. It's a really interesting one. I feel like Taza is taking on a challenger who's considerably bigger than him. Because Taza's
I wouldn't think of him in the same division.
No, Taza's like 170, right? And Gabriel Almeida, he's more of around about 185, so a little bit of a catchweight match there, but it should be a lot of fun. That's on Saturday night, April 10th. You can watch that on FloGrappling. Also, Fight to Win 169. And then this weekend, April 10th, we've also got an event, Corey, Emerald City Invitational, which you're going to and looking forward to. Tell us a little bit about what can we expect from Emerald City?
Yeah, that's right. So it's out in Philly. It's highlighting a 16-man bracket under the EBI rules. Emerald City is going to have guys like Nick Ronan. Andrew Tackett is probably one of the most exciting kind of wild cards on this, but we're also looking at PJ Barch. There's a lot of high-level no-gi guys and guys that are particularly experienced in the EBI format. Also, Super Fight just got announced. The maybe main Super Fight of the night is John Calistine, who'll be returning. We haven't seen him in a couple of years, against Ray Dalio and Stingray from 10th Planet.
Stingray, that's great, man. I enjoy watching that guy, actually. I used to remember I caught a bunch of his matches on the Rise Invitational a few years ago. Very fun competitor. He definitely goes after it. And I'm glad that he could step up as well, because originally Calistine was meant to face Suraj from Fight Sports. And unfortunately, he got I want to say he got like kicked in the eye or something like that.
It's definitely an eye injury.
It was very nasty eye injury. He's got like a patch on and everything. So, a little bit of a bad luck there that he pulled out just like a week out from the event. But great that they could get a replacement on such short notice. But that 16-man 170-pound tournament is looking pretty loaded, right?
Yeah, there's, as Corey mentioned, a lot of fun names there. Looking forward to the guys like Andrew stepping up to elite level black belt competition for most of the card there. And it's been a while since we've seen EBI rules on Flow. We haven't had a tournament like this in a little while, and I like mixing it up.
Yeah,
brackets are definitely my jam, and there's a lot of unknowns here because we haven't seen the bracket yet. Corey, you can confirm, I think, but they're going to do like a blind draw Friday night. Is that the way they're going to program this out?
Yeah, that's right. So the brackets revealed Friday night, I think, after 8 p.m.
Perfect.
Cool. So you're going to be there, and you let us know as soon as possible when that bracket comes out, because I'm dying to know how this one looks.
8:01.
All right.
There it is.
Perfect. And then, of course, I think the big one that we have to let people know about is, you may have heard about it, you may not, April 30th, Who's Number One is back. Craig Jones versus Tyro Tolo in the main event. What a card. Man, this is shaping up to be, possibly one of my favorite upcoming Who's Number One events, because there's just some bonkers matches on this one.
Yeah. I like this card especially because it's a little bit different than what we've seen before. For example, no Gordon Ryan, which I feel like clears the way for so many other storylines, because the biggest question in the jiu-jitsu right now is who can beat Gordon Ryan.
That's a big question.
We can't answer that lately. I mean, it's still Gordon, but now we have a chance to examine some other issues.
Right.
And I really like Craig taking on Ty. It's a giant clash of styles, right? Craig being sort of the leg locker that he is, mostly a no-gi guy at this point. Ty being the much younger up-and-comer. Craig has referred to him as a child throughout this whole process. And people are sort of pointing to Ty's game and saying he's got some holes for the leg locks, and Ty's fired up saying, absolutely not.
He wants to prove them wrong.
I'm going to prove them wrong. So that's a really fun match. I like the energy behind it. I think I'm most excited, though, for Rafael Lovato Jr. versus Gilbert Burns.
I love this. It's UFC versus Bellator MMA, right?
There's that going on. And
Lovato Jr., Bellator MMA champion in middleweight division, but forced into retirement, forced to relinquish his title because of a sort of a recently discovered brain condition that took him out of action. Tragic, absolutely tragic that the guy's career had just hit that point and then was forced out of MMA. But, of course, his roots lie in grappling, and he's back in the jiu-jitsu world, which is great for us, and we love seeing him back. But, man, a match against Durinho, who, an ADCC veteran, a no-gi world champion, a UFC title challenger, you put those two against each other, it's a great match.
There's a lot of history there. And stay tuned. I'm going to connect with our resident historian, Ricardo Balea Amendolia, very soon this week, and kind of dive into both these guys' career and influence, because they really have shaped the sport in many different ways. But that's just one more match. I mean, there's so many other ones. We have Nicky Ryan coming back, taking on PJ Barch.
That's a different one.
Card. Yeah,
that's a different one, right? Because Nicky versus PJ, like Nicky hasn't really had a tough test for almost a year now since he fought Ty Ruotolo,
which he lost, right? And so one thing that's interesting is Nicky has been touted as this prodigy, this potential superstar. But we just haven't quite had the opportunity to see it. The season got turned upside down last year, and he hasn't really had that many times to compete. He had a match against the wrestler, Tony Ramos, which was pretty one-sided and doesn't really answer that many questions.
Doesn't answer any questions.
He can leg lock a wrestler, okay? But this this is a tough match for Nikki, right?
Yeah.
And PJ is super experienced.
Make a note of the weight category as well, 175 pounds. I feel, having seen Nicky Ryan walking around at the last Who's Number One, he's going to have to cut some weight for this.
Yeah. He's
Thicky Ryan.
Thicky Ryan. If you look at the Instagram, he's definitely, been growing, basically. He's no longer 16.
Well, this is the thing. He was like the Peter Pan of jiu-jitsu. He was like eternally like 16 years old.
14 years old forever, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's not the case. He's legit. He's grown up. He's got a beard and muscles, and he's got man strength now. And apparently, that means that you combine that with his prodigious jiu-jitsu talent. It's a very dangerous grappler right
I'm
there.
looking forward to that. Corey, what jumps out to you about the next Who's Number One?
I'm really excited. I think this is probably the fan favorite match as far as I've seen on Instagram is Jessica and Grace Gundrum. I think it's been in the works forever, right? Those girls have met actually twice in the last 10 years.
That's a long range, though.
Right.
For such young athletes, too, it's kind of funny. Like,
10 years?
Right,
they were 10 years old the first time.
They fought the first time when they were 9 and 10.
There you go.
Oh, my word.
They fought again at 14 and 15.
And that's it.
They're one-on-one, but I don't know, how do you count those matches, right? This is the first time we get to see two adult competitors and two black belts in Grace Gundrum and Jessica Khan.
So wait, they fight every 5 years.
I guess so.
That's like a lunar eclipse, solar eclipse or something. Every 5 years, you get a match between these two. Well, that's amazing that we've got it here on the next Who's Number One.
I'm gonna have to find out their star signs and see if we can predict the match here.
Predicts the next one. Yeah, that'll be the rematch 5 years from now.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to Andrew Wiltie versus David Garmo. I think that's a really big one as well. Andrew making his return after a really tough match against PJ Barch just a little while ago, and David Garmo making his Who's Number One debut after some really impressive performances at IBJJF tournaments and Fight to Win and stuff. So very excited. That's a really well evenly matched kind of match, right? I would say. Yeah,
yes.
It's close. It's not like it's a clear kind of winner, even though Andrew's got the better credentials on paper.
Yeah, they're both kind of clawing their way up the rankings, right? And this is a great chance to showcase their skills. And right now, it's not so much the win for either of them that would really make them make a big jump, but the performance itself. How do they win? And if it's an impressive submission victory or complete domination throughout the round, that's more of a statement than eking out a W. But both of these guys fight super aggressively, so I think it's going to reward the audience as well.
And don't forget, free prelims live on YouTube and Facebook. The opening two matches will be Jesse Crane versus Lauren Sears and Haisim Rida against Sloan Climbers, who two very intriguing prelim matches there, showcasing some of the rising talents on the grappling scene. Super excited. That goes down on April 30th. Watch it live here on FloGrappling, of course.
Well, guys, it's been another great episode of Grappling Bulletin.
It has.
Stay tuned for all the World Pro updates. That starts very soon, middle of the week for us. And another big weekend coming up.
Yeah, we should have plenty to talk about next Monday to recap these results, because with Emerald City this weekend, with Fight to Win this weekend, and with all the World Pro results as well, it's going to be a good one.
All right, guys. Well, have a good rest of your week. We'll see you soon.